What do we have here? A rather nondescript blue box. It says Utilitac II. Provided by Ontario Knife Company, Joe Pardue. Over here, made in Taiwan. This ought to be interesting. Stay tuned, guys. Hi gang, Rob here. It is the afternoon of February 2014, Groundhog Day, and my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And Super Bowl Sunday. The game hasn't been played yet, but let's see if we can figure out who I might be rooting for. Whoops. Yeah. Well, guys, I'm a Hoosier. What can I say? We still love our Peyton. We do. Some of us call the Broncos the Colts too, as a matter of fact. Well, at least I do. So, go Broncos! Sorry for the early diversion. Didn't mean to do that to you guys. We do have a knife on the sharpening bench for review today, and this is not a guest blade. This is mine. Got it in the mail yesterday. It is the Ontario Utilitac II. Comes in this, rather cheesy, as we've become accustomed to, little cardboard box from Ontario. But that, my friends, is almost where the cheesy stops. Here's the blade. And here's the rest of the cheesy. Comes with this shoelace lanyard installed in the knife. Don't really know why. Another interesting thing is that as the knife ships, it comes tipped down, right hand carry with the lanyard installed in the butt of the knife. So where would the lanyard be? Yeah, it'd be in the bottom of your pocket. We'll get rid of that. Okay, but that is where the cheesy stops. And let me tell you a little story about why I have this knife. If you guys have noticed from any of my reviews, I'm not a huge Tanto blade fan. I've had some Tantos in for review. Some of them have reinforced my opinion about the Tanto blade shape. Some of them I've been surprised with. Case in point, the True North Knives Special Edition Chris Reeve Sabenza Tanto blade. Yeah, I know. I love my Chris Reeve knives, don't I? But I don't own a Tanto blade, or didn't own one until yesterday. And I thought, I'm on Instagram, and I'm, a knife nut with K's. And guys on Instagram seem to take pictures of knives for the days of the week. For instance, Frame Lock Friday, Sabenza Saturday, I might have said Umnundi Monday at one point. But universally recognized for Tuesday is Tanto Tuesday. And, the closest I've been able to come has been modified reverse Tanto Tuesday, and I take a picture of my 940 and put it on Instagram. But I thought I'd better really get a Tanto blade for Tuesdays, even though I don't love them, just to to bow to peer pressure and fit in. Actually, that is more of a real reason than anything other. But I thought I should have a Tanto in my possession, in my stable, so to speak, so I could see what all the rage is about. I really prefer like a classic drop point with lots of belly, and I get it though. A Tanto blade, you can have a reinforced tip. You can have this secondary tip that sort of acts as belly. Even with a real thick reinforced tip, you can get excellent piercing ability. I wouldn't say this particular knife has much of a reinforced tip, but that's sort of a later part of the story. So I get it. I get the American Tonto as popularized by our buddy Lynn Thompson of Cold Steel Knives. And I really thought my first one was going to be a Cold Steel. I've sort of been circling around the Cold Steel Code 4 line of knives, the aluminum scaled triad lock knives with satin blades, a long time coming from Cold Steel. And I really thought I was going to get a Code 4 Tonto, but you know, running between 55 and 60 bucks, I thought, oh man, really? I don't love them that much. And I think I was watching one of Carter's videos, Blade Brotherhood or Juju 1313 the other day, and he had one of these knives on his table for review, and I thought, man, I forgot about the Utilitac. I just did. Sort of a little recent history story. Ontario has made some folding knives, or had folding knives made for them in recent years by a maker in Taiwan. I don't know much about them except they do awesome work. The Rat series, the Rat 1 and the Rat 2 are made in Taiwan. Aus 8 steel, stainless steel lined, FRN handles, and they're really, really, really great knives for the money, as you guys know if you're paying attention on YouTube knife channels. When the association with Jeff Randall sort of went bad, and although they're still producing the Rat models, which stands for Randall's Adventure Training, I think they sort of sought out another designer with whom to collaborate on their Taiwan-produced folders, and it ends up being Joe Pardue, son of knife-making legend Mel Pardue, and a great designer in his own right. And the first collaboration between Ontario and Joe Pardue are the Utilitac series of knives, of which this is one. There are, as I can count, 6 of these. They come in 2 handle styles, this squarish one with the grooved Zytel handles, and then one with a more rounded sort of hunter profile handle without as much detail, of course rounder, and not made of Zytel brand FRN. They just say it's a fiberglass reinforced nylon. This handle is trademarked Zytel, and it is the best Zytel I've ever seen. So 2 handle styles, and then 2 blade shapes. This Tonto blade, and then sort of a classic drop point with a bit of a recurve, nice swedge, very organic. I kind of think, for me, the best combination is square handle with Tonto blade, round handle with drop point blade. I just think the flow is best that way because of the angular nature of the blade and the angular nature of the handle. And then they make, so you can get either blade with either handle, and then black coated or non-coated satin. So that makes a combination of 6. And I think the lineage, at least as far as construction, comes directly from the line of Rat folders. Let's talk about how. Of course, handle scale material is 1. Bead blasted stainless steel liners they share with the Rat series. Aus 8 steel, satin and black coated, they share with the Rat series, and the same pocket clip, although this one has no logo. The Rat series have that triangular Randall's Adventure Training logo. Also 4-way positionable pocket clips on both series of knives. Now the Utilitac, size-wise, falls in between the Rat 1 and Rat 2. The Rat 1, of course, having a 3.5-inch blade. The Rat 2, just a little under 3-inch. The Utilitac is 3.25. You may see some published materials that listed at 3.5. It is not. It is a 3.25-inch blade. I believe the stock thickness is the same as the Rat 1. Looks to be 1/8 of an inch. And a very similar weight to the Rat 1. I weigh this one at 5.3 ounces. Handle length, I forgot to mention, is 4 3/4 inches. So not a great blade to handle ratio, and the culprit there is not at the butt of the knife. You can see the blade comes pretty close to the end of the knife, but I think it has more to do with the setback of the pivot. From the center of the pivot to the end of the handle is pretty far. So that dimension, as you guys know, the closer the pivot is to the end of the handle, the better blade to handle ratio you'll have, provided, of course, that the tip comes close to the end, and this one is just a little shy. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. There's some pretty good knives out there with poor blade to handle ratios, like the Spyderco Military and Paramilitary II. Also, the Strider line of knives has a pretty poor blade to handle ratio. Not that it's necessarily poor, just not 1-to-1. And just like on the Paramilitary II, I will forgive this knife its long handle for blade size because it fits the hand so doggone well. Okay, let's continue talking about similarities to the rest of the Ontario line. Don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we have a pivot suspension system of phosphor bronze washers with paper thin nylon or Teflon washers. And the way this sandwich works is Zytel scale, steel liner, phosphor bronze washer, Teflon washer, blade. Okay, so the Teflon washer is next to the blade. And we also have the new style Ontario pivot. It is a D-shaped pivot with no Torx head on the liner, locking liner side, and then your adjustable Torx head bolt is on the show side. I'm going to turn my ringer off on my phone so it doesn't ding at us anymore. Sorry about that, guys. So how does that all work? Well, I don't know. You guys tell me. It works like a Rat 1, which, guys, for a knife that's under $30, currently selling for $25 to $27 online if you hunt, the quality is just amazing. I mean, amazing. It is absolute buttery smooth. Lockup is strong and secure. There is no blade play in any direction. Look at the lock engagement on this thing. In my mind, for a stainless steel liner lock, it is absolute perfection. The locking leaf resides right in the center of the blade tang. I guess if you were keeping score, you'd call that about 60 to 70% engagement. Kind of depends on how you open it. Oddly, if I open it briskly, locks up a little earlier. I think you get a little bounce off the stop pin. If I open it gently, locks up a little later. No big deal. Of course, stainless on stainless, there's no stick. Easy enough to disengage. Knife fires unbelievably well with almost no movement. Here's an interesting thing. Although it's it's an ambidextrous knife from the standpoint of clip mounting, the liner lock orientation is definitely right-handed. However, and it is, because the knife is a little broad in this dimension, it is kind of a reach for the left thumb to get over there and disengage the lock. But for deployment, much like a Benchmade 710 where your thumb just sort of rides the corner of the frame as you're deploying it, that is absolutely perfect. It's a perfect angle for the left thumb. Perfect arc. You know, that if you just follow the corner of the handle scale, the tension that you build is just perfect and it just flies open. If you're doing it right-handed, you kind of have to find that angle for yourself because of the lock bar relief. So it takes a little more practice actually to open well right-handed than it does left-handed. Yeah. And by the way, I got this knife yesterday. I'm making an initial review video today because I got a voicemail message from one Tennessean, Campfire Talk, after I sent him a picture of this knife, and he said, "Get that video up, stat!" So that's why we're having a video so soon. And I know, Camp, that you will appreciate the left-handedness of this knife. Okay. What else to talk about? Well, we've got our standard Ontario thumb stud. I have absolutely no problem with it. Here's something I want to talk about. I'm making this video, just a couple days after my rather negative review of the Browse Bionic. Also a stainless steel liner lock knife that applies some texturing to the locking liner. And I absolutely, I destroyed that jimping on that liner lock because it's just done badly. It is proud of both liners, which allows any torquing pressure to, or any torquing force in the grip to disengage the liner, which does not engage the blade tang far enough, so it takes a very small amount of movement to disengage it. This knife is sort of the way to do that right. If you notice, the show side scale is level with the liner. The liner doesn't stick up above it, so when you're in a full grip, your pressure is on the handle scale and not the liner. That's the way it should be, to avoid accidental disengagement. And the texturing on the liner, while completely tactile, gives great indexing and great grip, is in no way abusive to the hand. I can't find a pointy or sharp spot on that liner, although the texturing is very effective. Now let's talk about grip elsewhere on the knife. This is the best Zytel I've ever seen on a knife. The molded in texture is adequate. These grooves, I'm going to try to get them so you can see them. They are V-cut and very sharply. More traction, just beautiful. The jimping on the front of the handle, although not sharp and irritating, is plenty adequate to grab the thumb. And then the jimping up on the blade, if you're a little forward of that, same thing. A little bit rounded, but still provides grip. Let's look at ergonomics. Now, this knife has really square shoulders, and if I were going to level a criticism, that would be it. You do feel them. I haven't really done any heavy work with this knife, but let me just sort of grip it tightly for you and apply some forces to the blade and see what hot spots I get. So, Saber Grip. I'm not really feeling those corners. Just not. I can tell the clip is there, but it's not mounted in a position where it's irritating at all. Not bad. Let's go to the hammer grip. You know, when I looked at this knife in pictures, I thought this broad dimension here is going to present a problem for ergos, but in the hammer grip, oh, it just fills up that gap between your index finger knuckle and the web of your hand. The knife really doesn't want to move a lot. Just feel a lot of control right there. And a choke up grip, well, I'm not going to ding this knife too hard. It is a $27 knife. And if you notice, I've sharpened this knife, and in order to get a flat, straight cutting edge, I did get just a little bit of flare on the sharpening choil. You know, it wouldn't have taken too much more material removed to go forward choil, which would let the thumb index in this big swale in the spine of the blade. But it doesn't really afford that grip. And it's kind of a stretch from the main choil. So there's a little bit of an ergonomic issue, but I'm not sure the knife's really designed to be used in that fashion. I mean, we don't really look for that thumb position in a 950 Rift. Let's go to reverse grip. Oh my. Now I am feeling the corners a little more down here in the pinky area on the reverse grip. But that's not really a working grip. That's a stabbing grip, a thrusting grip, or a slashing grip. The thumb lies perfectly over the squarish butt. A little bit of handle jimping back there to make sure you are where you think you are. Again, pocket clip, not an issue. I know it's there, but it's not irritating or offensive. The handle's more comfortable than it looks, I gotta say. Going to do a little blade wipe, and we can take a look at the finishing on this knife. And I gotta, I'll make a point and then a confession. I'm going to show you this side first. The satin finishing and the blade grinds are beautiful on this knife, and they're not quite factory. At least the satin finish isn't. Os 8, especially in satin, is super susceptible to scratching. And I had a little slurry scratching from sharpening, and I had to sort of refinish by hand some of the satin. So if it looks a little blotchy or a little shiny in spots, it's because of me, not because of the knife. It was very, very consistent. If you look at the grind lines, they're just beautiful and very, very symmetrical side to side. This side I did a little more damage too on the flat. Sort of took out some of the Utilitac II logo. Don't know if you can see that. But the grind lines are straight and symmetrical and pretty darn complex. Look at that tip. I mean, $27 knife, guys. Here's another little perk on the Utilitac II that you don't get on a Rat. The Rat series of folders are a US 8 steel. Let's take a close look here. Yeah. Go up here behind, next to the thumb stud. Can you see that? That's Os 8A. That's Cold Steel's recipe. That's the annealed version of Os 8, which normally, in my experience, gives a little more consistent grain structure. It allows the knife to have fewer stresses induced because it is annealed, which normalizes the grain structure and takes all the stresses out of the steel that it has after being worked. So it ought to be a little better blade steel than the Os 8 you see in the Rat series. Can't really tell you just from sharpening it. It did seem to need a little more work to get where I needed it to be than the Os 8 in the Rat series did. So, you know, maybe it's a little harder and a little more wear resistant. I don't know for sure. And this is only one knife, so we're not quite sure about that. What I can tell you is this. Can't speak to edge retention, but let me grab a piece of trusty phone book paper. Guys, you're not really going to believe this. Just watch. Wow, just take a look here. Take a listen. And I don't know if you can really see this, but I'm carrying that slice from the main cutting edge to the tanto edge in a smooth motion. It's just ripping right across that secondary tip in one continuous cut. You can't even hear when it makes the transition. I'm saying wow. Let's push cut a little. That wasn't so good. That, guys, is a really, really sharp knife. I'm saying in the top 5 of any sharpening job I've ever done. Let's talk angles for a second. Both primary and secondary or tanto edge are basically the same dimension. Your flat ground from this point to the edge, and if you look, this distance from here to here is almost identical to this distance from here to here, which basically gives us the same primary grind angle, the same thickness behind the edge, and so it's a 15-degree secondary bevel on both surfaces and a 19-degree micro, super skinny, super tiny. Now what you're not going to get because of that geometry is a super robust tanto edge for prying. But you know, if you stab something up to where the flat starts, which you've got plenty of strength to do with that tanto, and do your prying up in this area, you've still got a really strong tool. And it's flat ground, not hollow ground, even in the main grind, unlike the cold steel tanto blades. So it is going to be a little stronger, although the blade stock probably isn't as thick as most of your cold steels. I think they're maybe 4 millimeters or 3.5, where this is 3. I have basically nothing bad to say about this knife. I did notice one little flaw as I was polishing out some of my scratches. If you look right there at that peak, where the jimping ends and the swale starts, you can see a little rounded area. So this flat where it comes up to this jimping and this point, there's a little bit of no cleanup, or there wasn't any material there. So maybe there was a little excessive scale in the raw steel, or it was ground off center. And you know, on this side you can see that corner's a lot more sharp. That's it though, and they did clean it up. You know, it's rounded, and you can see some sort of polished grind marks in that little area. That's it though, guys. Other than that, you have what we've come to expect in a Taiwan-produced Ontario folder. Bead blasted liners that are completely precise and free of any burrs or snags of any kind. I didn't even polish these washers. After I got done sharpening, I did go inside the knife and just clean everything up and lube it. The washers are tumbled, they have no burrs. The finish on them is beautiful. I didn't see any reason to polish them. Blade centering. Well, you guys have seen how free the blade is. You've seen and heard that there's no lockup, and take a look at that. Yeah, did I mention it's a $27 knife? Gosh. I should have said this in the beginning of the review and saved you guys all a bunch of time. Just go buy one. You know, pick a handle, pick a blade, pick a finish. Buy 5. They're small, or they're inexpensive at least. I'm telling you. And if you have any doubt about the strength of that liner lock, I want you all to remember my Rat 1 review video, and I explained that I'd taken that knife on a camping trip and batoned firewood with it. Pretty much mangled the liner lock. I'd bent it to the point that it had an S-curve in it. It was touching the far liner. I took the knife apart, hammered the liner lock flat, rebent it, put the knife back together, and it works like new. And that was 3 or 4 years ago when I did that. You know, is it a Strider SMF for strength? No, it's not. Is it a Benchmade Adamas? No, it's not. It's a $27 EDC/utility blade, which, by the way, would make a pretty darn good defensive tool. Got this out of the box yesterday when the mailman came. I was at work yesterday, and my detailer saw me taking it out of the box, and he goes, "Where'd you get that?" I said, "Well, I ordered it on eBay." Great eBay store, guys. Dull Knife Terminator. Great prices. Usually has a pretty good selection, knives and sharpening supplies. And a great guy. Anyway, Tyler saw the knife. I handed it to him. He looked at it for about 30 seconds. He goes, "Does he have any more?" So before he left, I ordered him one. Should be here about Tuesday or Wednesday. And who can blame him? He was carrying a $15 gas station knife that's about 3 months old and it's toast. So he's going to find out the difference between a $15 knife and a $27 knife. He's going to be spoiled forever. I'll keep you posted on this one, guys. Let you know how it performs over time, but I think we kind of all know how that's going to turn out, don't we? Can you tell I'm a little excited about this one? You know, you buy some knives you really have high hopes for, and they end up letting you down. And some knives you buy just kind of because you think you ought to have one, even though you're not too excited about it, and then you spend a little time with it. Maybe it becomes one of your favorite knives. That might be this one. So grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the word is sharp.